In this video, a successful veteran trader shares in step-by-step detail his best trade ever. Hi, I'm Mike Bellafiore, co-founder of SMB Capital, and we're a proprietary trading firm located in Midtown Manhattan. And I'm also the author of the trading classic, One Good Trade, and the Playbook. In this video, see an example of a breaking news trade related to the US-China trade war using weekly options that resulted in the best trade ever for a 20-year plus experienced trader. So I was scanning Twitter and I came across one of the really terrific tweet threads from a veteran successful trader. It was his best trade ever, somebody who's traded over 20 years, so that grabbed my attention. The thread is jam-packed with learning for us. Ryan and I know each other from Traders for a Cause. So I reached out and asked him to share the trade with us, and he agreed. So we'll talk about his best trade ever, which I'm excited to go through. And y'all in the room will get a great learning lesson from a veteran trader. So Ryan, if you would, can you tell us about this trade?
Thanks, Mike. So this happened last week. It was, something that I'd been pressing, and not exactly pressing, but that I've been hoping for a while. And everything just kind of seemed to come together. So I posted my thoughts. So let's kind of go through what I thought about it, my reaction to it. So this was the closest thing to a perfect trade I've ever had. Typically, there's lots of reasons why a trade isn't perfect. You can nitpick it to death on any situation. And it's one of the reasons why I feel like I continue to keep coming back to trading, because there's never a perfect day. There's always room for improvement. So for me to have this moment where it felt like I got everything and it happened exactly how I wanted it to, it was just a very, 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 very positive moment that's few and far between in this business. So in reference to the type of trade it was, it's a news trade. It's an event-based trade. I'm very much a breaking news and a headline trader. So my setup is I'm looking for an unknown event. I'm looking for it to lead to a violent move in the stock and options. And I buy naked options that are just out of the money, hoping to capitalize the most on the stock move and the options volatility all at the same time. And for me, this trade just happened to occur on a Friday, so I was able to buy cheap expiring options, and I was able to get them for quite a bit of size.
So for the younger guys in the room, the fact that you could buy these on Friday gave you a little bit more juice in the trade because of time?
Exactly. There's a little bit of a risk-reward trade-off when you're trading the expiring options. Because it's a Friday, you almost have to expect that they might go to zero, because if the trade doesn't work, they'll get destroyed. But if the trade does work, these options will explode as the stock moves through the strike price. It picks up gamma and delta on an increasing rate, and this is it has an incredible spike in the value of the options. So to specifically talk about the trade, this was my reaction to the news that the White House was considering delisting Chinese companies that Bloomberg reported, and that they were going to prohibit the investment of American portfolios into Chinese companies at all. So you could have looked at a number of different Chinese companies, but the one that I chose to focus on was Alibaba.
And so Ryan, what news feeds are you connected to?
I'm connected to a lot of them. So I monitor multiple wires such as Benzinga, Trade the News, Fly on the Wall, Twitter, Bloomberg, Reuters, Dow Jones. So I'm very active on breaking news. When I saw the news come up in Alibaba, the first thing I pulled up was the Alibaba 170 puts. At the time, Alibaba stock was trading just below 175, and This trade really exhibits the explosive power and the way that you can leverage options to have a stock move just really give you great value for your investment. I bought 400 of the 170 puts for 30 cents, and that puts me at $12,000 of risk, but it's the equivalent of 40,000 shares short Alibaba stock, which at that time would have cost $7 million. So that's $7 million of stock exposure for $12,000 of risk. I was in the trade I actually checked this, and it was about 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
Worth your time.
Yeah, so this was, I mean, if they could only all work this well and this fast, but this was a great opportunity, you know, really just an amazing 2 minutes and 15 seconds in my life. What I was very curious about was my reaction to the trade. I thought that I would be completely amped up and jacked and like whooping and screaming, but I never got that crazy adrenaline shake. I just felt, and the way I said it here is I felt relieved. I felt relieved that things actually happened as I thought they would and as fast as I had. My reactions are much different on the downside when things aren't going my way. But it was just very interesting, I thought, the way that it felt.
Well, you said something before which I find interesting, and I wonder if this led to why you felt this way. I think it's important when you have one of your best trades to not only study the trade, but to study the things you did before the trade that allowed you to be in this optimal psychological state. And that was that you were thinking about this, you were daydreaming about it, you were planning for it. Some of the really great traders that I work with, they game plan really big trades that are potentially about to hit the marketplace. Or they start to visualize. So Beyond Meats is one that we've been hawking pretty closely. So lots of guys have been visualizing and game planning and daydreaming, hey, what would it look like to really catch a huge move in Beyond? Roku last month was one of the really big trades that we were all flagging. What would it look like? What would I want to see? What would hit the wire for me to find the next really big trade in Roku? Obviously, the US-China trade war, what would it look like? What would I want to see hit the wire for me to get a huge position on that I could take advantage of? What would I want to see between the US and Iran to put a huge oil trade on? But there's actually sitting there like great athletes who daydream, visualize great performance before a game. Kevin Durant will daydream and visualize a great performance before a game. From what I heard, you were doing this before the trade. I wonder if potentially that led to this calm feeling, potentially led to you being quick, you being aggressive, you being decisive.
I would definitely agree with that. This type of trade, it's definitely a lot of recognition and then reaction. So you recognize the news, and then you know what you're going to do and how you're going to react to it. And for me, the news it was a macro headline essentially, but I knew what I wanted to look at, which was Alibaba in the sector of Chinese ADRs. And I was able to recognize it, pull it up, and then pull the trigger right away. In corollary to what you were saying, I often game plan and I take it a step further and I say, if I see something that's a stock that's making highs, I say, okay, what news would make me want to buy, let's say, 400 calls? Or if a stock's going lower, what news would I like to hear that would make me want to buy 400, a couple hundred puts in this name? So I'm trying to game plan for the news as well. Yeah, so this is just a further explanation of the relief that it was something I was thinking about for a while as something possible that I would like to have checked off my list in my trading career. I'm not the type of person who likes to post P&Ls online or share that information. It's a very slippery slope between you have to do it all the time if you're going to do it, and it's somewhat exhaustive. But to say that I don't have my own result-related goals that I want to hit, I'd be lying. I have numbers that I want to hit, and I typically try to break it down in a daily fashion where I want to hit $2,000 a day or something of that nature. And I started with much smaller goals, but as you progress, your goals should increase with your experience.
If you want to learn 3 real-world setups that our traders use, including the simple setup that we teach all of our new traders and the setup that turned one of our traders into a 7-figure big money earner, check out the free webinar that we're currently running. Just go ahead and click the link that should be appearing right now at the top right-hand corner of your screen. That's going to open up this free registration page in the new window, so don't worry, you're not going to lose this video. You're going to learn more in a couple of hours from this trading workshop than from years of online education.
So being able to hit a trade like this, which is something I've been looking at for some time, one of the reasons why I was able to increase these goals is I had to find ways to remotivate myself. You know, I've been coming to the office and sitting at a computer desk for 15 years, trading. So it's easy to get stuck in a rut a little bit and to kind of just do the same thing every day and to be fine with it. But in order to push myself, I think these goals were very, very helpful for me. And it was you, it was Mike, who, when I heard you talk at Traders for a Cause a few years ago, and you mentioned the idea of a 7-figure trader. It made it possible in my mind that it was something that I could attain, and I could make $5,000 a day for a year. You know, sure, I could do these, I could hit these numbers, that's possible. So why not? The other goal I added was the 6-figure day. It seemed like a good goal to have. I wasn't sure when or if it would ever happen, but even if it didn't, just having that goal set the motivation for me.
Hey, so you crossed off one of those bucket lists.
I'd crossed off one of those bucket lists. I sure did.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's really awesome.
Thank you.
That's really awesome. Yeah, and I do think, so Dr. Steenberg and I talk about this all the time, and I lean on the side of more encouraging for traders to have both process goals, and process goals being paramount, and P&L goals. And Dr. Steenbarger, I'll let him explain his views on that. My interpretation of Dr. Steenbarger's view is that he leans more heavily towards process goals being even more paramount, and P&L goals being less important, because opportunity set gets into that, because the process is what leads to you doing particularly well. I've just seen on our desk, and we've done this in the past with some of our guys, we've put P&L numbers in front of them and asked them to hit them while also having process goals that they should be focusing on most, that having that target set all the work that they needed to do and the expectations they needed to have on themselves so that they would go ahead and hit those goals. And so you're sitting there saying, I want to have a $100,000 day. I want to be a 7-figure trader. I think that sets your routine, that sets your process, because now you've got to say to yourself, well, how do I make $100,000 in a particular trade? How do I make 7 figures in a particular year? And from those expectations, now I'm setting goals. So you have to sit there and say to yourself, well, maybe one of the ways that I can have a 6-figure day and be a 7-figure trader is I've got to visualize in more detail the headlines that are going to hit and the size that I'm going to put on and the risk that I'm going to take to have that kind of a day. As opposed to, and maybe that visualization and daydreaming is more ambitious because your goals are higher, and because you're daydreaming about it, you're going to be able to more easily do it in real time than if you were just sitting there saying, well, I just want to be better, or I don't really know how much I really want to make. And if I see a big breaking news headline, I'll be aggressive, but not as aggressive. And so I think, for somebody like yourself who is a fan of process goals, also having P&L goals works. might not work for people who don't have a really good process in place. But for someone like yourself and some of the traders here, we found that it has worked.
I'd agree with that, and I think that they also go hand in hand, because I've had trades in the past when I review them and you review the process. Sure, you make a nice trade and you do well, but you see that within that trade in the review process, there was room for improvement. So I've been in trades with the opportunity to have this sort of profit on a daily level, and I haven't maximized it. So then that's me reviewing my process to attain my P&L goal on some level. So knowing that it was possible and then putting it together, I agree. I think they go hand in hand. So my next thoughts as we go ahead on the posts that I made were, it's the way that this sort of goes to the trader life. It's kind of weird to talk P&L with people who aren't traders.
Please read this tweet. Please read this tweet in its entirety, please.
So one strange thing about that day is, until now, I've only told my wife about it because she'll see the tax returns anyway. But it's weird to talk P&L with friends who are civilians. They just don't get it usually.
For me, the comment about the wife was a laugh out loud moment for me, sitting on my couch in New York City. That is such a funny way to bring that up.
It's odd to chat with people about the sort of, even the down days, the ups and downs. I mean, it's not the same. You gotta do it.
And probably on a trade like this, you would be, you might be construed as a bit pompous in the Midwest for talking about a 6-figure plus trade that you made to somebody who probably doesn't. I think most people don't make that in a year, so that might not be appropriate conversation for in front of a lot of people.
I agree completely. So this is a continuation of that thought, where unless you've traded on a floor or sat at the desk and clicked the buttons, you just don't understand what it's like to deal with the ups and downs of the job. And as much as we all want to be that Zen trader who doesn't let their emotions get in the way, we're all humans, and so it's a constant battle. And so your friends can sympathize, they can tell you they're sorry or they're happy for you, but no one else can understand it like the other traders can. So one of the reasons that I did choose to share this trade and this little story is because I know that hearing Mike talk about a 7-figure trader inspired me. I was just hoping that hearing me talk about it might inspire someone else to reach their goals as a trader as well, and to press themselves to be better at it.
Does this mean next time in Chicago, pizza's on you?
Hey, you got it, man. You got it.
Looking forward to it. And
Absolutely.
And this is recorded, so I may bring this out if you stick me with the check.
I'm a man of my word. You got it. After the Alibaba trade, the next trade I made was just a little 2-cent Apple scalp on some expiring options, and the idea that I didn't just throw money away and let these things expire worthless or change the way that I trade and who I am, I was actually fairly proud of just that realization as well, is that there's no sense in throwing money just because you made a good trade. Just be who you are before and after.
I love that part. And you had an edge in a trade, and you had your best trade ever, and then you found another trade where you had edge in, and you put it on. And you're a practitioner of making good trades, and you saw one and you did it. Very hard to do. What most people do is, after a big trade like that, is they take too much of a loss.
Right.
They get a little overconfident, and they forget the special circumstances that brought out that really best trade. And you didn't do that. Hard to do.
Well, I'm a big proponent of being able to break out. When you break down, you say $200 a day works out every day to $50,000 a year. So if you're going to throw away $200 a day every day on a stupid trade, you just threw away $50,000 a year also. So it works both ways. So for me, I always think that there's more work to be done, no matter what. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next opportunity to put the next trade on.
A great book that I read recently was Phil Knight's book, and the motto of the book is "Grow or Die." That was the motto of Nike for years. Almost went out of business for the first 15 years that he was running it, and for us as traders, good for us to be thinking that way. So, if you would, can you run through some slides as to the execution of the trade and give us some charts on what you were looking at?
Here's the intraday fundamentals of BABA that you guys added. Here's BABA on the daily. So here's the intraday chart of BABA for Friday, September 27th. As the news came out, it was pretty much the very beginning of that decline. The first bar was the White House weighs limits on U.S. portfolios into China, and that they were considering delisting Chinese equities from U.S. stock exchanges. With stock trading, we'll call it 175 even. The strike that I looked out to for the price was the 170 put, so about $5 lower, and I was able to get them for 30 cents each. I believe I bought 4 100 lots to get my fill, and I was comfortable with that size. That was exactly what I wanted to get for the trade.
Any moments where you're like, oh no, I shouldn't have got so many of these. If I got so many of these, that's not a good sign.
Typically, that could occur, but because the price was reasonable, 30 cents isn't too bad. I wasn't too concerned about the risk there. I was actually at the same time attempting to buy some other puts. I bought a handful of JD puts, and I was looking at some other things to see if anything else looked decent to put on some other size as well. As the stock spiked through 170 and it got through the strike, I set up my first sell orders, and the first sell I think was for about 40 contracts at $2. I started to sell in some chunks. I think my next sales, I waited until it was about $5, and I topped out at $6.15. I was out of about 2/3 of my size on the spike down, getting hit on the offer of offers I placed. Then after the stock bounced, after that 163.15 low, I sold the last chunk of 1/3 for, we'll have to check the time and sales, but it was either 6 or 5. I think it might have been $5. And then I was out of the trade 2 minutes and 15 seconds after placing it. So to walk through the trade management, it was an unknown headline. So the unknown headlines are the ones that are going to have the greatest impact for stock and options, because they should move the stock violently, which will also have an increase in the options volatility. And for expiring options like this, if you can get them to run through the strike, that's when you'll really see the spike of value increase. I pulled up Alibaba right away. I also bought a handful of JD puts. I was prepared for this headline, and I knew exactly what I wanted to look at on a sort of China trade war headline, especially if it was China specific. All these other names that I listed moved: the FXI, Asher, KWeb, Sina, Weibo, NetEase, IQ, and Ctrip. There's money to be made in all those names. I think the one that I picked was probably one of the better ones, though. In trading the expiring options, I was prepared for a total loss. I was willing to lose the entire 30 cents or $12,000 outlay. I scaled out at 2/3 of my position on the spike, getting hit on the offers on the way down, and then I sold into bids for the last third. The tricky part about trading expiring options as they run through a strike is you're going to end up selling them most likely for parity. There's not going to be much premium left, so you have to know what the stock price is at. You have to keep a good eye on the stock price in order to know what price you should be getting out of your options for. One of the reasons I got out of the position so quickly is that I was concerned that we might see a denial of the news from the White House or Trump. It's pretty common for there to be this sort of tit-for-tat information thing where there's a rumor and then the denial of the rumor. So you got to be nimble in these trades because you never know what's going to come out next. Here's the executions. So starting from the bottom up, as you can see, I put my size on for 30 cents. I scaled out of a small chunk for 209. Then I waited a bit, sold a little bit at 3 and 350, sold quite a bit at 5, a little bit more at 550 and 625. And then the last sale for about 136, which is about the final third, I sold for $5. I don't have a lot of qualms on this trade. I got the size I wanted. I took it off as I wanted. I think I was patient enough with that last third to see if there was going to be any continuation. And then once it hit the bounce, I bailed on it. One of my greater regrets was I actually had a 20 lot of the 175 puts for about 65 cents. And I just placed an offer. I think I placed the offer for 75 cents. I made $200 on the trade. It ended up being a $20,000 winner if I would have kept it on as long as the other trade. But I wanted to focus on the size I had, and for better or for worse, I mean, I guess it worked out, but that is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, well, really well done. And huge congratulations, huge high five from myself and all of us in the room for you for this great trade. And just really,
Thank you.
Really great stuff. Really great stuff.
Thank you very much.
Guys in the room, questions?
So why Baba? Why not? Why get big on Baba? Why not JD or Baidu or something like that?
Baba typically has a pretty good amount of volume in there, so the opportunity to get in and out is a little bit greater. As a more expensive stock, as a percentage move, it would have a pretty large drop. Immediately when I pulled up, I was looking for something in the 30 to 50 cent range, and these puts were there right away at 30 on the offer. The JD strikes or 50 cent strikes, you definitely could have traded them and done pretty well in them, but I think it would have been a little bit tougher for it to push through multiple strikes, whereas the Baba, it only had to get through a couple strikes to get down to the 170 level as well. And yeah, I keep a bit of a closer eye on Baba with all the trade war stuff as well, so I'm very familiar with it.
One more question. Did you look at the least shorted Chinese stocks on the news, like the least shorted Chinese names?
Did I look at the short interest? No, I did not look at the short interest. I'm typically very focused on the stock move and then watching the fills, watching the tape. Where are they trading the options? Are they paying the offer? Are they selling the bid? Where are the prints going off and things like that? And I did not pull up the short interest on Alibaba.
Question?
For the 170 puts, what was the spread like when you entered this trade?
No bid at 30.
Okay, so you just like figured that the 30 cents was just a fair price if, let's say, it just absolutely fell.
Yeah, you can try to get a little bit cute with the trade and try to bid 25 cents or 20 cents or something like that. But at the risk of not getting filled on a trade like this, it wasn't worth it to me. There is the opportunity to get filled inside the spread for sure. It's happening less and less, I've noticed lately, than it used to in previous years. So for me, in order to get the fill and the size that I wanted off, I was willing to pay the offer.
I was just curious, when you're scaling out that fast, were you able to get out with limit orders, or did you have to use market orders?
I always use limit orders. I do not use market orders. And so on the way up, or I should say on the way down, it was easier to get off because I'm placing offers as the stock is running through what at that time is fair value. And then on the way back, I had to know what the stock was trading at so I could hit the bid of the stock essentially. So with Baba stock trading 165, the 170 puts, I have an intrinsic value of $5. So that should be their bid. And there's no reason for anybody not to take that. So that was the last price that I hit on the way to get out, even though there wasn't a market there in the options.
Ryan, will you tell us a little bit about your site, please?
Yeah, so our site is openoutcrier.com. We're also posted under the Twitter handle OpenOutCrier. We post breaking news, rumors, chatter, and options flow that we see. It's a corollary. It goes hand in hand with this style of trading. We're looking for something that might denote that an unknown event is coming up, whether that's in the stock or the options or from a newswire, so that we can identify trades that I just mentioned. It's www.openoutcrier.com, And yeah, we have a subscription news service with multiple different feeds. It's $100 a month, but everyone can get a free 2-week trial just by signing up.
All right, great. Again, congrats. We look forward to you continuing to grow and there being, even in short order, another best trade ever, although this one was pretty fantastic. And if there is that next best trade ever, hopefully you'll come back and talk to us a little bit about that as well. But really great stuff, and really happy for you. And really generous of
Thank you very much.
really generous of you to spend some time talking to us about it. Really appreciate it. So now it's your turn. Which effective trading technique from this video will you try next? Are you going to try game planning potential breaking news plays, or setting P&L and process goals for your trading? Let us know by leaving a comment below right now.